Hi, I'm Paul Gerard, and this is Aura Wellness Center, and I'm the Director of Yoga Teacher Training. And today's subject is organizing yoga workshops. And teachers talk about this one all the time. Where do I get started? How do I finish up? What do I do after it's over? So we're going to go from the beginning, and we're going to give you a sample because any one of you could run this right away, but what you want to do is go through some steps. So I'm going to give you an example, and that is yoga for stress management. Why did I give you that one? Generally speaking, just about every technique in yoga has something to do with stress management. If we call it yoga for stress management, we haven't infringed at all on the medical field. And in fact, if we wanted to bring somebody else in who is a professional, say a psychiatrist, psychologist, social worker, anybody who's related to the field of what you're going to teach, that helps. Like, for example, if I'm going to be talking about something like back pain, well, bringing in a chiropractor makes perfect sense. And it also makes sense for you to network with chiropractors back and forth. But getting back to yoga for stress management, and that's what we'll use as our model. We have to decide whether we want to create an online workshop or do we want to do an in-person workshop or do we want to do both? Now, some people will say to me, both? How do I do both? Well, the first thing is you could do the in-person workshop and record it while it's going on. You could also do a Zoom session with another professional or somebody else who's another yoga teacher who's got a common interest for one reason or another. They're involved in it. Maybe they're a friend of yours, partner, or you both just met each other and somehow or another you have this as an ambition where you want to spread the word for yoga for stress management. So with that said, we've got the option to go online, in person, or both. As I mentioned before, the great part about yoga for stress management is all of the techniques are yogic. I mean, if I have a yoga for weight loss workshop, by comparison, I'm going to have to bring in other types of things. A yogic lifestyle will help in that case, but it's just one of those things where you're going to have to bring in other types of information. Someone might say, well, these are all yogic types of diets. And I'm going to say, no, they're not. Because as an example of weight loss, the low carb diets that you see, and that's gotten to be pretty popular and effective for diabetics, for people who want to lose weight. That's not sattvic. I mean, that's somewhat sattvic, but it's not in balance with the rest of the traditional way of doing sattvic. Someone might say modern sattvic, but is modern sattvic grain-free? Because that's what you're talking. You're talking, if it's somebody who's dealing with diabetes, they're actually, and they're wanting to lose weight, then they're actually going to have to go onto a modern hybrid type of diet. So we're going back again to yoga for stress management. But what I was trying to get at is bringing in a specialist might be needed for some of them. Something like this, not so much. What you have to do also in the beginning is research. So you want to research not only the subject, but you want to research how am I going to do this and what facilities might allow me to host a workshop. Um, it's as easy as this. You could do this from a studio in your own home, or you could do this from the local health club. So that's, you could be working with a hospital for that matter. So that you've got some research, and that research might require you to dig into things. If you want free resources, you have things like Google Scholar, which is going to give you all the medical studies. You also have a number of other trustworthy sites. So if you're looking for trustworthy sites to start with and you're dealing with writing something like this with a yogic spin on it, I would say for starters, Yoga Journal and Yoga International would be great places to start. The Yoga Alliance also puts out information. Our blogs also have information. There's a lot of different places you can go, but it's one of those things. If it's a medical facility, that's good, because that's usually something that's very dependable. If it's from a blog that's really not taking any credit and they're not even putting up the name of the author and there's no attached research and they're making claims, I don't know. I'm going to say this: if they're making claims, you need to know where was the study done, where was the research done. So it's one of those things where you have to expect that some students are going to ask you these questions. Where did this come from? So that's one of the things that we want to do when we're at the writing and planning stage, is to be able to compile information and then to be able to translate that information so that it's user-friendly, and also to be able to back it up with resources. So we want to be able to tell them where, did this come from WebMD? Okay, that's good. That's a good resource. And in yoga, as mentioned, you can use almost everything. And now here's another thing that a lot of people have as a problem. They'll say, I want to give my students so much. Sound familiar? I want to give my students so much. But the facility says 1 hour. That's all you have. So that's 1 hour basically for an elevator speech. And what happens is you're probably going to want to turn it into a series. You have no control over that if you're in somebody else's facility. So the key is, as far as making use of every part of what you're doing, because let's say you have 20 pages of research. I'm just saying hypothetically. And you're only able to deliver 5 pages worth of information in your workshop. You've got 15 pages more. What do? Well, you could extend your series online. That's one thing you could do right away. And you could reach a larger group, and you could also redo the first one you did, say part 1. You could do that one all over again. I would not label these as part 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. For example, I might say something like yoga poses, common yoga poses for stress management. Then maybe hypothetically, we might move on to meditation for stress management, pranayama for stress management, flowing yoga for stress management, yoga nidra for stress management. I've just barely scratched the surface, and we've got about 5 workshops that we could do. It's not anything where you have to go crazy and start digging that deep. I mean, you could easily come up with information fairly quickly. The other question I get is, how do I promote? I don't have much money. Okay. Online promotion is just so much cheaper than the way it used to be. It used to be that we would put in advertising in the local newspaper. Those days are fairly well done. There are some people who still advertise in newspapers. I wouldn't suggest it for yoga teachers. To be honest with you, it's just we do not have that high of a markup in things that we do. The return on investment. If I'm spending $2,000 for an ad, will I recover my money? Probably not. I might have had the best interests of the community at heart, but I would be out $2,000 and probably make a couple of hundred or a few $100s. So that's what you're looking at. So you don't want to get in on a losing proposition right away just because you have a nice idea for your community. Instead, you probably want to do something like this. Go to online platforms, like here's one, Facebook. I know a lot of people say, especially it's kind of humorous to me because I am one of those people. Facebook is for old people. It's for boomers. They're the ones that use Facebook now. And the truth is, that might be true, but there's also a lot of young people on Facebook as well. So you're reaching out to a large group. If you have a paper or an announcement or something like that, then you want to reach out to some of the other people on Facebook and see if they'll, pick your information up and help post it on their sites. Some will, some won't. It's just a question. Would you help me out here? Here's what I have. I have a paper on this. Would you do it? Papers, you want to make them interactive. So you want to make it so that there's some video in there. There's possibly some photography, some infographics. You don't have to use all those. You could just do videos. It's easy enough to use videos. You can use your own videos, or you can use videos that are on YouTube and that are related to your subject. So that's an idea when you're posting and going back to the idea of having some kind of reach. You want to either have a Facebook page, and realize that some people don't use Facebook at all. So in that case, I might recommend another type of social media, maybe TikTok, maybe Pinterest or Instagram. There's a lot of other ones out there. We don't use them all. The ones that we use are Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, and Twitter, if I didn't mention that already. So there's a limit to how much you can do. I mean, nobody can be on every social media platform. So I would say pick the major platforms where you feel like you can reach most of the people. If you're really young, I think that TikTok is really good for the younger crowd. There are some people my age who are involved in TikTok, but not very many of them. So you have that as far as generational reach. The other thing is, after your workshop is over, most people don't think about this, but you want to have after the workshop evaluation. So you can either use survey cards as they're on their way out so that they can at least give you some feedback, or make a self-evaluation afterwards. So that's some things to think about. And I really want to wish you a lot of success as far as organizing your own yoga workshop. Namaste.